Okay, we are live. Hello, welcome to Cinema Savvy, and welcome back to a brand new movie review. I'm Chris Garner, joined with my mate Mark, today to give our review on Jigsaw, which is the 2017 eighth installment in the Saw franchise, directed by the Spearig brothers. Once again, starring. Can we say that? I'm not. I'm not going to say anything. Who's starring in this film?
No spoilers.
Yes. So the first part of this review will be spoiler free, so you don't have to worry about us giving anything away. I've warned you already, no spoilers until we get to the spoiler section. We've done a video on the Saw franchise. You had to jump off like midway through it, but it's about an hour and 45 minutes. We talk about all the previous 7 films in the franchise. I'll link that in the description down below. This has been one we've been waiting for 7 years, actually.
Yeah.
We've mentioned this in loads of other videos before, but a brief synopsis. We loved the Saw franchise, and we were never old enough to see one in the cinema until now. So we hit 18. The previous year, Saw 3D had finished the final chapter it was called, and we never got that opportunity. So it's really nice that it's sort of come back now. Yeah, so it's 7 years for us, and in the context of the movies, they say it's been 10 years since the death of John Kramer. So before we go into our review, brief synopsis of the movie for anyone who doesn't know. Bodies are turning up around the city, each having met a uniquely gruesome demise. As the investigation proceeds, evidence points to one suspect, John Kramer, the man known as Jigsaw, who has been dead for 10 years. Probably more so than ever, this is going to be one of the hardest reviews to do without giving anything away, but we're going to do our absolute level best. To kick off then, just if we go into like initial opinions, what did you think to Jigsaw?
A really big improvement on Saw 3D.
Yes,
we'll give you that, but it doesn't take much. But the traps were adequate. But yeah, some good acting, some not good acting.
There's a lot of not good acting in this movie. Not that you go to a Saw movie expecting, Class A Academy
Oscar
Award.
winning.
Yeah. But you enjoyed it then?
Yeah,
as a Saw fan.
Long wait. I think it was more the wait that's made it better for me.
Yeah.
The fact we got in was also another good thing for us.
Yeah. Because when this was confirmed last year, this was happening, wasn't it? Because I remember they released that teaser image of the open casket in the graveyard of Jigsaw. And I think on the tombstone it said something like Saw Legacy or something like that, because that was the original title for this film, was going to be Saw Legacy, which I think I prefer to just Jigsaw. Yeah, so I mean, as I said, this is one we've been looking forward to for a long time. As soon as it was announced, because I hated Saw 3D. It's by far the weakest one of the franchise, in my opinion, and it left so many things still unanswered. And I felt like, because I like the franchise so much, Saw didn't deserve that kind of closure. Like, I wanted one more after that, a better film to say, no, this is the true end of Saw. It went out on a high note. But there was always that underlying worry there that, oh, is it going to be worse than Saw 3D? Are they just going to completely flog a dead horse? And I guess some people out there still probably say they've been flogging a dead horse since Saw 3. Some might even say since Saw 2. But I've liked this franchise, and I was looking forward to this one. The trailer came out, and in hindsight, the trailer probably wasn't all that great, but I think it was the nostalgia that we have for the franchise and the fact that Saw was coming back to the big screen. And as I said this, like when we came out, like, I'm glad this is back.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's finally back. I've missed these films. These were films that I look forward to every single year, and based on the ending of this one, which I'm not going to give away, I do want a Jigsaw 2 and a Jigsaw 3 and a Jigsaw 4 all the way up until 7. Just keep making them. If they keep making money, keep making them. But we'll go into it now then. So I guess we'll talk about the traps, because that seems like a very easy thing to talk about without going into too many spoilers. I wasn't really wowed by them, but I think when you're 8 movies in and you have like so many traps each movie, I think probably for the team behind it, it's very difficult to think of any new ideas. A lot of the ones in this film were based on ones that it felt like we'd seen before.
Yeah.
There's one in the trailer, like the bucket head trap that they call it, where they're on a chain and it's like dragging them in to a razor blade. Very similar to the one in Saw 5.
Yeah.
There's one where they, again, not this is all in the trailer, so I'm not giving anything away. There's one where they're about to be hung, and there was a hanging trap in Saw 6. There was one in Saw 7. We've got another one. So it's all kind of stuff you've seen before. There's even a point where, again, you see this in the trailer, where two people are buried, and then you've got like razor blades and knives and pitchforks falling down on them. Like, it's just at the point now where we're at traps like that, where there's just random stuff falling on people. But so I wasn't. But even with the Saw films, like, I know the traps are a huge staple of the franchise. They're important to have. They make Saw what it is, but I've never been invested in the traps. I don't go and see these films for the traps.
The story.
I like the story. Maybe I'm in a minority with that one, but I do like this story. What else can we talk about? This is so
Without
difficult.
spoilers.
This is so difficult. Can we talk about like new? Can we talk about new characters a little bit? I feel really. This is so difficult, guys. This is so difficult. I think it's fair to say that it's more or less an entire cast of new characters. I don't want to get people's hopes up. There's no mention of Dr. Gordon. There's no Hoffman in this film, so don't get your hopes up for that if you were hoping for that. Maybe down the line in sequels, who knows? But there's nothing like that. It's the first film with all these new characters, so I'm really torn whether I like them or not. They're kind of nothing character. Every person in the trap since like Saw 2 onwards are nothing characters. You don't care about them. You don't really get much about their backstory. Although I will say in this one, they at least try as much as they can to give you a little bit of why they're there in the first place. Because the whole crux of Saw is that these people have done something wrong. Let's put them in a trap to test them. And the other move is, at a certain point, like, they just sort of like bypassed that and just had them in a trap for the sake of it. This one did show flashbacks to stuff that they'd done.
Yep.
Some of which we talked about that might be a bit, dodgy. Like, can you really count that as a bad thing? Was it their fault in the first place? I don't know. So that was strange. I'm talking a load. You talk more about this movie.
I'm struggling with that. Giving us a 4.
I know, it's really tough.
I can't even remember the trailer now. So obviously we see someone hanging.
Yeah.
He's obviously got the bucket on his head, so people know that that's going to be part of that. I don't want to spoil anything, so I can't move on to that till later. There's so many plot holes in this film.
Oh, yeah.
Which we will get onto later. So many open-ended questions. And you'll have so many theories as to what's going to happen next. And
we can say that. So by the time the film wraps up, there are still, and I'm guessing this was intentionally done as well in case they did get to do a sequel, there are still a lot of questions raised in this film that haven't been answered. Yes, there are still many in the franchise as a whole that haven't been answered, but there are still some from this movie, whether they're sort of like little traps you see in the background, certain things that happen in the film, characters that just seemingly disappear. Like, we're probably going to get I hope we get a sequel to this, and then some of these can be tied up. But the plot holes, you pointed them out to me when we were watching the film, and then they just seem to like compound on themselves all the way through. But this was a movie where any other movie, I'd be really angry about this. But when you're 8 movies into a franchise like this, and let's be fair, there's been plot holes in the films before. You've talked about some of the plot holes in when we did that conversation, that discussion video of the other 7 films. You just get to a stage where you're just like, I mean, I had my popcorn. I was just shoveling my popcorn like, who cares? I'm watching Saw 8 in the cinema. It's absolutely fine. So I could let that slide. But in terms of Jigsaw planning ahead, that's already been taken to an absolutely ridiculous degree in these films, but this one probably more so than ever. I guess there's that line from Saw 5, if you're good at anticipating the human mind, it leaves nothing to chance, which is a bit of a cop-out at this stage now, and I guess you can keep chalking it up to that. The music. Charlie Clouser came back to do the music. He's scored all 7 of the other Saw films. I think it's fair to say the music's still badass in it, right?
Yep. Oh, it's the best bit about the film, really.
Yeah, you get a few little motifs that were used in some of the old ones, and of course they end it with the main Hello Zep Saw theme. I read an interview, well, I guess this was on Wikipedia, so I don't know if it was an interview with him, where he said because they went into this in terms of it being like a reboot to get new people involved with it, he wanted to bring a new approach to the music and he wanted to do something different. And I read that and I thought, oh, he's not going to use the same music in it, and this will really annoy me as a Saw fan because that is part of the series, as much as the character of Jigsaw or the puppet or whatever, like that music. But no, it was in the movie, and it was awesome to see it, and just to see this movie again. I really think that's all we can talk about right now in terms of spoiler free. Is there anything? I'll give my recommendation on the film now, then we'll go into spoilers and we can talk much more about it. My recommendation, if you're a newcomer, this film doesn't really do anything different from the other Saw movies to get you on board. If you've watched any of the other Saw films, if you're not a fan, if the other ones haven't done anything for you, then don't expect this one to change your mind at all. This is very much in line with what you've seen before. Doesn't really do anything new in that regard. The acting's what you'd expect from a Saw film. You don't go into it for the acting. The acting's pretty bad, apart from one guy. But there is a twist in there. I don't know if this twist is one of the strongest ones of the franchise, but there is one in there. I had fun at this movie more so because I am a fan of this franchise, and this franchise is back now on the big screen, hopefully to stay. Hopefully we keep getting these every year now. I enjoyed it. It was a fun time at the cinema. I don't know whether I'd rush back to see it again, but it was fun. I enjoyed it.
One of those you watch it if it's on.
Yeah, it's not the worst one of the franchise. I would still say that that's Saw 3D. I'd have to watch this again, probably going back on what I just said. I'd probably have to watch this again and let it sink in because I've had so long with the other Saw films that this is just literally fresh out the cinema after seeing it. It's not the worst, but it's not up there with like Saw 1 or Saw 6 for me, which are two that I really enjoyed. What about your recommendation?
I was going to say, if you're going to watch this film, watch the previous Saws first,
Mm-hmm.
and then place this as you need to. But you'll understand when I say that once you've actually watched all of them and then you watch this. Never watch this one first because you'll just come out with so many more questions than you will than what we have already.
Yeah.
But yeah, I highly recommend you watch the previous Saw first. But I liked it. It was all right. It's kind of the only reason I liked it mainly is because I actually got to watch a Saw film.
Mm-hmm.
Same as you, got to be. But it's a good film. We got to watch it together, which is what we've been waiting to do since
we're at school.
Yes,
damn, this goes way back.
2007. So.
Jesus. It's been a long time. It's been a long time coming. Yeah, so that'll do it for our spoiler-free section. We're going to get into spoilers now. So once again, if you haven't seen Jigsaw and you do want to see it, go and watch it first. If you haven't seen it and you're still curious, watch the other 7, then watch this, and then come back to our review at a later date. Final warning, we're going to ruin this entire film right now. Okay, right, you have been warned.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Game over. Okay, we're talking about the ending straight away then?
Should we just say John Kramer's back and high five?
Yeah. But he's not back from the dead. He is still dead.
We got to see Tobin Bell. That's what we needed.
Yeah, there's really 2 twists in this film. And I guess it kind of follows the beat of Saw 2 a little bit, in that you get one twist where it's like, in Saw 2, it's like the video feed's not live.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, so there's the 2 narratives of the film are taking place at completely different time from one another, which is exactly what this movie is. So all the people going through the traps, this is actually a prequel to the first Saw movie. So it's set before the bathroom trap in the first one when Jigsaw was just starting out. That's one twist there. And then the other twist is that we have another apprentice who's named in this film. I think his name is Logan, not Wolverine. He's fine. We don't really get much about him. But then if we go back to the other Saw films, in Hoffman, when he's revealed to be the apprentice in Saw 4, you don't really know anything about him. And you're just kind of like, why should I give a shit? And then you get to Saw 5, which goes into his entire backstory and why he was recruited by Jigsaw and why he did what he did, which makes you then go back and watch Saw 4 and go, oh, okay, I get it. I get why he's doing this now. So hopefully we'll have a case of this.
Traps.
Actually, no, we still need to talk about this twist. because you kind of spoilt this for me, and I was in denial the whole movie. I was watching it and going like, no, I don't want to.
I watched a 4-minute video clip on YouTube, which I regret. So I went into this film knowing a little bit, but didn't understand how. So I learned that it was a prequel before I watched it.
Mm-hmm.
However, the whole film sets you up to believe it's not a prequel, it's after the events.
Yeah.
Which is what you thought until the ending.
Well, half of the film's a prequel, half of the film
yeah.
is a sequel to Saw 3D. But you told me that, and I was just like, why would you... I specifically told you not to tell me about that. Like you said, oh, I watched this thing and it like spoiled the whole movie. I was like, great, mate, don't tell me. So I'm going to tell you what happens at the end anyway.
What a friend's for.
Oh, I know. Like, the one chance we get a Saw movie that I didn't want it spoiled, you spoiled it for me. Thanks for that, mate. But no, that is the twist. And I've always defended these films, actually, because a lot of people think it's laughable that the main antagonist of Jigsaw died in Saw 3, and they've kept him alive now, in a way, till Saw 8. But I've always thought that maybe without the exception of Saw 3, because he's in, like, one scene in that, and he goes to, like, a book signing, and it's terrible. I really hated how much he was in that film. They've always found a really creative way to bring him back. So Saw 4, it's revealed at the end that it's taking place at the same time as 3. 5 comes out and it goes into all the backstory of Hoffman, so you get even more of him. 6, it goes into like the whole healthcare thing when he was diagnosed with that, and video messages that he leaves in his will. 7, as I said, pointless, hated it. But in this one, with doing it as a prequel, you get a lot of... Well, you don't get loads of Jigsaw, because there's quite a big stretch of this film that you don't get him. And then I was getting restless because I love Tobin Bell. He's a great actor. He's the best actor in this film again. And I turned to you and I said, like, I could really do with some Tobin Bell right now.
Yeah.
I'm lagging. I need some Tobin Bell. And then literally 5 minutes after, boom, you get a great scene with him. And he steals the scene every time. Like, he's such a great actor. He's such an interesting character to just sit and listen to. You could give me like an hour-and-a-half film of just Jigsaw talking, and I'd go and see it. I would love that shit.
You would enjoy it too.
Yeah, so that's one twist. And then the other twist is, as I said, like a new apprentice. You get a bit about him. So basically he's oh god, what would you call him? A surgeon. He does like the autopsies on dead bodies. There's probably a technical term for that. It's very late. I'm lagging at this point. And as soon as you see him, he's got an assistant, and the assistant he has is revealed to be some kind of Jigsaw worshipper.
Yeah, series fan.
Yeah, like there's a website on the deep web of, Jigsaw fans. They make their own traps. They probably put people in their own traps as well.
She's got her own warehouse full of...
Yeah, so it's revealed that that was a cool scene, actually. So she takes this guy into this studio that she has, that she calls it, with the most famous traps in the Saw franchise that she's apparently built. I don't know how long it would have taken her to have built all these in between working probably a very strenuous job at a surgery, probably very long hours. I don't know how much time she had on her hands. Because I saw that and I thought she'd like attained all these traps from the police, like she'd got her hands on them somehow, and I don't know how she'd even go about doing that. So there's this Jigsaw enthusiast and the surgeon, and throughout the entire movie, they kind of try and pin it on her, but they wouldn't be that obvious. But from the beginning, I was thinking it's going to be the surgeon guy, because they need someone with that medical know-how, kind of how we had Dr. Gordon in Saw 7. And then the film kind of twists you away from that, and I was thinking, like, okay, maybe it won't be him, it'll be someone else. But then by the end of the movie, it kind of circles back around, and it actually is him all along. It's fine. I guess at this stage, when you're doing a Saw 8 and you are doing it after Jigsaw dies, you do kind of need another apprentice if you do want to carry this on. From a story standpoint, it doesn't really make much sense, though, because I said if this whole thing being a prequel, we realized that this guy was probably one of the first apprentices, if not the first apprentice that Jigsaw ever had, and helped him build the traps for what we see in this movie. Maybe some later down the line, who knows, because he gets other apprentices with Amanda and Hoffman who help him with traps. We've seen that in the other films. But obviously, he's never mentioned in any of the old films because they hadn't invented him yet. But in the context of the story, we don't know why. Did he want to keep him in hiding? Do any of the other apprentices know? Is Dr. Gordon even still out there? Does he know about him? all these are left unanswered and probably will never get answered, in all honesty. This is me just trying to like fill all the plot holes in. I don't know if I liked him though. He's just sort of it's not a great performance, and the reason they give as well as to why he joins him, again, they might do this in a sequel later down the line, but we learned that he was in the army and he's like he suffered from severe PTSD, and it kind of got a bit complicated, and I've only seen it once. So his wife was killed.
Something to do with the main detective.
Yeah, the main detective, he's like a douche like the entire movie, and they kind of, there's a moment where they're trying to pin it on him, like you think that he's the apprentice, you know it probably won't be him. He had something to do with getting the guy off who killed Logan's wife, and he's really pissed off about it, and he was been trying to find a way to essentially get his revenge on him. That plays into it too. Another thing is that Jigsaw originally put him in a trap, and realized that it wasn't fair, and sort of like jumped in at the last minute as the game was still playing out, saved him, nursed him back to health, and then sort of was a mentor to him, and they sort of like found acceptance with each other. Logan was the guy who, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. It kind of really gets complex towards the end with all the amount of stuff. Logan was the surgeon who mixed up the x-rays of John Kramer's cancer, which made him not realize he had cancer until it was too late and it was terminal and there was no way they could operate on it. And that's why Jigsaw put him in the trap in the first place. But then he realized that he made an honest mistake, and the two kind of found acceptance, and then Logan was helping Jigsaw build some of his traps. I never got that in the Saw franchise, why just because Jigsaw has a change of heart, he'll kidnap you, he'll drug you, he'll put you in a life-threatening trap, but just because he nurses you to health and says, "Oh, I'm sorry about that," that then means you have to devote your life to him and make traps for him. Yeah, and put other people in traps. I never really got that, but you kind of run with it after this point. Because with Hoffman, it was basically like blackmail, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like he says, if you don't work for me, I'm going to basically hand all this evidence into the police
that killed Seth Baxter.
Yeah. So that was like a thing. And like Amanda, like she was really fucked up and just saw Jigsaw as a father figure. That made sense.
And he helped her. And
Dr. Gordon, it's really with the Dr. Gordon one that doesn't make sense, because they just needed a twist for the final Saw movie. So they thought Dr. Gordon would be a fun idea to do with it. What else can we talk about this movie? Talk about the plot holes regarding the traps, because I agree.
We'll go through each trap in chronological order.
Yeah.
So we've got the first trap, the bucket trap. That's the first, isn't it?
We have that little bit in the start, but that's
the
future, isn't it? That was really like a test or something. We won't talk about that one. So the main trap that begins the film is the bucket head trap, which we talked about. They're all in a bucket on a chain, like, and being dragged into a razor blade.
They have to sacrifice some blood in inability to get the bucket off.
Yeah,
essentially, which in hindsight makes sense. However, it doesn't make sense till the last person who's asleep doesn't wake up in time, and he gets pulled up, which later turned out to be Logan.
Yeah.
However, the body they give is someone who has no head. It's completely chopped off from his mouth. From there.
Okay, so the traps that we see in the film, as I said, takes place before the first Saw film, and basically what Logan's doing in the present is recreating all the deaths pertaining to those traps that we see from so many years ago. So he recreated the bucket head with someone, like a random guy. But yeah, like he's like chopped, the top of his head is completely chopped off. But the whole bucket is still intact, but they take the bucket off. Well, they have to cut the bucket off first. Yeah. And he has no head. It didn't cut through the top of the bucket or anything like that. So I don't know how that's
head
doable.
Would technically still be in the bucket.
Yeah.
But it's not.
So I don't really understand that. And they don't say something like, "Oh, the body was dead before we put it in the bucket." They don't say anything like that. The next one
is the hanging.
Yeah, so they're all being hung, and the tape plays and says that this one woman, and this is where it gets funny, this one woman snatched a purse. She was a purse snatcher, essentially. She's a thief. She snatched this one bag, and the person whose bag she stole chased after her down the street. She was an overweight woman, had asthma, and in the bag was the inhaler and the medication that she needed. she chased after her. She started having an asthma attack, and she actually died from it. Now, I said in the theatre that I don't blame the person who snatched the purse. If you know you've got asthma and you know you're overweight, and you know you can't run, don't chase after that purse. Just
And later down the line, you realise that she only actually steals $3.53.
yeah,
And if that's the case, and someone steals your bag, let them have it.
exactly. I mean, even if you've got the cards in there, you can call the police. You can deactivate your card.
Yeah.
There are other options in there. But she tries to chase after her, and she like dies of an asthma attack. Well, don't run after the person. You have yourself to blame. You know your limits. Don't chase after them. So
that was one for the trap.
That was just hilarious though. And then
they're actually being hung. They've got 3 syringes, and each one of those syringes has got a number on.
Yeah,
and that number corresponds to basically what she stole. And we see that, and we realise she stole $3.53.
So how does Jigsaw know that? How did Jigsaw know how much was in?
I don't know.
There needs to be an apprentice down the line that's like a personal investigator.
This makes no sense. But also, my other plot hole is what she'd have died in the first bit.
So in the tape, he says that she's been injected with a poison. There are 3 syringes. One is the antidote, one is a saline solution, and one is like hydrochloric acid that's going to like burn all her insides up and like give her a fucking horrible death. She can't make a decision, so the guy injects her with all 3 and kills her. But you made this point that if she'd have died in the first trap, the Buckethead trap, then what would have happened here? Because she wouldn't have been there to have played the game. Would there have been a backup? Would there have been a plan B?
Also, just off the top of my head, how does those syringes know that they've been injected to release them from being hung?
It's Saw 8, ladies and gentlemen. It's Saw 8, the film that has no plot holes in it at all. But this whole running thing of if that person had have died in the previous trap, how would this next trap even work out? It just continues, and it continues all the way through the film. The next one is a room where there's 2 doors, and there's a 3rd door which says no exit on there. And of course, the guy breaks the rules. He tries to go through the door that says no exit. The floorboard kind of caves in, and his leg gets snagged in like a whole bunch of wires that are underneath the floorboards.
Spinning around.
Yeah, and it's almost like a tourniquet. Like they're all wrapped around his leg, and it's tightening. It's like cheese wire, and it's going to cut through his leg. On the floor, in the floorboard, is a tape player that says "Play Me." He eventually convinces one of the guys to bring out the tape, to put his hand in, bring out the tape, and play it. And it says something like, "There's a lever down there. If you pull the lever, it will release you from it."
Yeah.
But it knows exactly which guy is in the trap.
As it says in the tape.
They say like, Ryan, like you bought this on yourself. You've always tried to find an easy way out. And it's like, well, again, what if he'd have died in the first trap? What if he'd have died in the second trap? How do you know that Ryan would still be alive at this point? And how do you know that he'd be the one to try and go to the no exit door to get out in the first place? What if they'd all played by the rules? Like, what if he went into the chimney trap, which is the next one? It's stupid, to the point where I thought, is someone watching this live and talking over like, the intercom or whatever, is like watching it all play out so we can talk to them directly? But some of them are tapes.
Yeah.
And he says their names on the tapes. Some of them are like TV recordings that he's
press play.
Yeah, and it really doesn't make any sense in that regard. If the traps were open-ended and they could appeal to anyone, then that's fine. But the fact that they are specifically designated to those people's names, that's the problem. So he doesn't pull the lever, and he kind of sits there for a while. The other 2 leave him and say, like, this is up to you. They go into like what looks like a big chimney stack kind of thing.
It's a silo.
Silo.
And there's somehow just a TV in there that doesn't get affected by any of the grain falling.
So it starts filling up with like all this gravel, grain stuff.
You get ridiculous amount of pitchforks, knives dropping with ridiculous amount of force.
Yeah. You see this in the trailer. It looked absolutely stupid in the trailer, like with all the stuff falling on them. To the point where when I first watched the trailer, I didn't know anything about the film. I thought there was like a magnetic floor or something underneath where they were trapped, and it was like the magnetic force was pulling the metal objects down. No, it's just kind of emptying them out onto them.
Yeah.
But like a knife falls down and sticks like in with a lot of force in his shoulder. It really wouldn't. It might nick you. It would just fall at the side. There's nails that come down that fall with a lot of force that embed right into your arm. They probably wouldn't do anything. They just like bounce off your arm to the side based on how high they were falling.
But the only way to stop is with him pulling the lever.
Yeah.
But if he was in the trap, how would he pull the lever?
Yeah.
But if he also didn't fall into that trap, how would they know about the lever?
And in fact, actually, out of all the Saw films, this is probably the worst offender of this.
Just
when you think about
traps. None of the traps make any kind of sense.
And again, going back to that line from Saw 5, if you're good at anticipating the human mind leaves nothing to chance, no person could anticipate this. Like, no one. What if they'd have all died in the first trap?
Yeah.
You know, like, what would you do?
Film over.
What if they were late getting out of the room? Because basically, when they finish the bucket trap and they take the bucket off, in front of them, there's like a little door that opens that they can all go through. If they stayed in that doorway and watched Logan, who we didn't know at the time, get killed, would Jigsaw have still walked out and saved him? Would he have had to have stayed behind the door?
Also, another thing that literally just cropped into my head is the person who plays Anna.
Mm-hmm.
She actually escaped a door that's in the same room as where he's had his... It's a door they've tried earlier, and she quite easily opened that door with a spade.
Yeah.
So at this point, obviously, the other dude's gone in the spinny trap.
Yeah.
Which is also really stupid because she actually stopped the trap.
Oh, we forgot about that one, didn't we?
And he could quite easily reach down, grab that handlebar, and pull it and release himself from the trap.
Yeah.
So that's irrelevant to even talk about. It just makes no sense. But also, I don't understand that he tries the no exit door. You try the other doors first. So what would happen if they'd have got that door open and they all just got out? Four of them just walked away. Just makes no sense. And it's a barn. Once again, I brought it up in the Saw 2 plot.
Just punch through the wall.
You've got pitchforks, you've got axes in there. As I said, Logan picks up an axe.
Yeah. It's a wooden wall, like it's not metal or anything.
Even that door, just go for it. Those bars, enough force, you're going to break those bars in the window. They can see there's an outside. It just makes no sense.
So the next trap after that is one you just mentioned, where it's like this big, I don't even know what you'd fucking call it. It's like this big...
It gets built up in the studio, doesn't it? So you see it, and it's apparently Jigsaw's first ever trap. Which, if that is his case, then he started shit.
Well, no. Well, I don't know. He started fucking big.
I don't think it makes no sense because technically, how'd you get out? Which isn't a jigsaw trap.
So basically, it's this huge cone thing, right? And inside is this sort of like blade that runs around the outside. It's like this big cone that like turns in the middle. It basically like mince anything up if you threw it into it. But they say in the present day that this was a trap that Jigsaw built first. It was like one of the first traps he ever built, or I think she even says the first trap he ever built. Well, it wasn't, because if we think back to Saw 4 with the knife chair when he put Cecil in it, or Cecil for American viewers, that was his first ever trap. That was when he was first getting into the Jigsaw game. It's this really crude, like made from household items kind of thing, whatever you have lying around. It wasn't refined. It was just like bits of wood knocked together and like a fucking knife thing that you have to stick your face through. That was his first trap. And then he made the glass coffin, which we see in Saw 4, which then comes back in Saw 5. This would have been like his third one. But this is huge. This thing like takes up like an entire fucking room. Yeah. So he's gone very quickly from like these very sort of like build it out of anything you find to these giant elaborate traps that we get towards the latter part of the Saw franchise.
Plot hole is if she did rebuild this, how does a young girl like that lift all that?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe she's been lifting. I don't know.
Serious gains.
Well, they talk about that in Saw 4, right? With Strom when he says like Amanda wouldn't have been able to have got her up there alone.
Yeah.
I guess it's just step ladders and a lot of brute force and determination. You can build one too. So, of course, the guy gets mashed up in there, and then it just leaves the two. So the guy pulls the lever, it cuts his leg off, so he's free from the trap, but he's still alive, and it leaves the one remaining girl. Now, throughout the film, it says that her boyfriend was sleeping on the bed next to a like toddler, and he must have been drinking or something. He fell asleep. He turned over and he basically suffocated the little baby. And that's all the information we're given at this point. They get to the final room. She breaks out, and then she's injected by a guy in a pig mask. Pig mask is whipped off, and boom, it's John Kramer. At that point, you realize that this is the prequel stuff. Sits them both in a room, chains them opposite each other with a shotgun in the middle with one bullet, and he says, "This is the key to your survival. This is the key to your escape." Loads it into the shotgun and says, "Right, have fun," essentially, and leaves the room. And they immediately interpret it that they've got to kill one another. It's revealed at this point that she actually was suffering from depression after having this baby. Like, she was getting no sleep. Like, she was just completely crazy. She took the baby, put it on the bed next to her husband to make... No, she killed the baby first, didn't she?
Yeah, she did.
She smothered the baby herself first, then put the body of the baby on the bed.
Make him believe he'd killed his own child.
Then he was arrested, probably ended up in some kind of mental ward, and then hung himself. So she picks up the shotgun, goes to shoot the guy with it, but Jigsaw is very sneaky and all that stuff, and it's a reverse shot, and it hits herself in the face and kills her.
He also says this is the key to your survival.
He put 2 keys inside the shotgun shell when it fired, which is basically just like blew apart the keys and like made them misshapen and everything like that, so they wouldn't fit the locks, and the 2 kind of just die.
Which he quickly realizes when he picks one up and it's all mangled. I
still think you could have like flattened that key out and still used it. I don't think it was beyond the point, because it wasn't like it was like completely like ripped apart, metal everywhere. It was just sort of like crooked, just, you know, like step on it. Or he had 1 foot, didn't he? Step on it or press it against the wall. You could flatten that out easily. What else can we talk about? In that scene, though, when we do get Jigsaw, and I did say that Tobin Bell is the best thing. He's great in that scene. There's a little table he has with like, it looks like a spiked rolling pin looking thing.
Yeah, it's a load of
gears or something like. I don't know if it was gears or blades. I couldn't really tell. And there's like a little wooden box at the side. It's never revealed what they are, so maybe they'll come into play in another one. But I was saying this to you afterwards. Like, if they do continue these films, and of course Tobin Bell's got to be a part of them because he is Jigsaw. He is part of the Saw franchise. He's the biggest part of it. Will they continue to do these prequels? Because if this is going to be the only prequel now, and then the next one's going to be a complete sequel, there's really not anything else you can do with John Kramer unless you do more flashbacks pertaining to this new apprentice to flesh that out a bit more.
Which well, end of Saw 3D, you've got Lawrence Gordon, and as I like to say, the 2 people you've got with him is one of these now, this Logan. In which case, if that is true, who's the other one?
Yeah.
The next one's got to have Hoffman in it. I still think the second one is Amanda because I think she's still alive.
But do you think now the franchise would still go back to those old ones?
I still think it will. If we're going this far back and we're seeing him making stuff, because there is a scene where he's teaching Logan to make things, and where John's learning a lesson. He even says that he's taught him something, and he's teaching him how to make these things. And they put down the reverse bear trap down, don't they? That Amanda's in.
So he was the guy. Logan and Jigsaw were the ones that built that in the first place. That the jawbreaker trap. Which was cool, I guess. I mean, at this point in Saw, when you think, like, how would anyone have all the time to make all these things? Now we've got this new guy in the mix, maybe it'll make a little bit more sense.
We do hear a little bit about Tuck's pig farm.
Yeah, you picked up on this.
I picked up on this. Obviously, Jill Tuck is John Kramer's wife. Is this her farm? In which case we would understand now where he's getting all this heavy machinery from for a lot of his traps, really, and a lot of metal. And
so I guess it was a farm that no one wanted to buy, and no one has any interest of visiting or checking up on, because you go into that place, so it's never revealed what happened to all the bodies from the traps in there. Like, they say that 2 were left in there, and he like sort of brings them out, and they're all decomposed and shit, and with like a cloth over them. What happened to everyone else? Are they still there? So it's stuff like that. It's weird. If that is Tuck's farm, though, I guess that's another nod as to why he used a pig mask. He also talks about pigs being compassionate creatures. So I don't know if he's going to bring compassion to his work now. So I thought Saw 4 gave a very effective reason as to why he used the pig mask when it was Chinese New Year.
They were going about swine flu, and if obviously a pig's done, so that could lead to why he uses pigs in Saw 3, and where he even got the pigs from.
Well, it was at the meat packing place as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
With the yeah. So it's still possibilities there if they do link it back, or maybe they're just going to keep it vague like that. And then that brings us to the present, where we realise that the apprentice is Logan's in there, and the douchey police cop guy, I can't remember his name. They're in a room together, and they've got a collar on, which I thought was a shotgun collar, like the
Detective
one that
Holleran.
That's it. Yeah. So you remember the names better than I do. Just douchey cop guy. Oh, okay. It's you looked on Wikipedia. Okay. So they're both wearing a shotgun collar thing, which looked like the one that Lynn had in Saw 3.
Futuristic lasers.
Yeah, we've got lasers now. I swear to God, we are like this close to going to like Saw in space.
I went
Give
Dr.
it to like
Evil.
Saw 10. Yes. Yeah.
Actual laser beam.
He'll take them to like a moon, have like a moon base or something. That's where he does all his base of operations from. But it turns out
pig layer.
So it's like a laser beam thing essentially, and they say that it's a laser cutter, and these things will cut through anything. It's the strongest blade on the planet, I think he said. Just made me think of a lightsaber as soon as he said that.
They each have to confess their sin.
Yeah.
In which they could either choose who goes first, or it'd be chosen for them. And douchey Detective Holleran chooses the apprentice, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He picks his button and he gets pulled back.
Well, over the intercom, it sounds like it's live. Like Jigsaw's talking to them, and he says, "Like, you've got to confess now, and I'm going to be listening, because if you don't, like, I'm going to fucking kill you." So they're confessing, and like it's not working, and it's getting closer and closer. Like that's not what Jigsaw wants to hear.
And Logan confesses to mixing the X-rays up.
Yeah.
And in the end, it looks like it's not the correct confession, and the laser beams come, and you see the blood squirt.
Blood goes, yeah.
And then Holleran, he gets pulled in. He confesses his sins, but he looks up and realizes that the lasers are burning a hole in the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Confesses his sins, and the lasers...
Was he like a crooked cop or something, or he let people off or something?
Yeah, he took bribes. He let the people off and put innocent people away. And yeah, he confesses his sins, and the lasers go off, and at that point he realizes that the ceiling's falling apart above him, but not above Logan. And at this point, Logan stands up. You realize that the lasers aren't actually lasers. He's got blood packs on, and he's actually stood up and played everything that Holleran had just said.
Yeah, and he's basically now going to try and frame Holleran for being the new Jigsaw apprentice. So he's set everything in place. He's used a certain kind of bullet that only Holleran used.
You see him swap, don't you? And
yeah,
at least the start where he actually shoots Edgar Munson.
Mm-hmm. He played that tape though, and I don't know if that would hold up in court because it seemed really vague. He was just like, "I did it, I confess."
But where would he run to? He's not got no passport. Obviously. Yeah, he puts all the jigsaw pieces that he's cut off people in the detective's freezer. Yeah, it just makes no sense.
And then with the assistant who was the Jigsaw fanatic, she saw Holleran try and not kill, but he like held him at gunpoint, didn't he? Holleran held Logan at gunpoint.
Here's another question I just thought of. Nobody else knew about that farm, so why was there a car approaching that farm?
At which bit?
At the end when...
Oh, I think we don't know how far she ran.
Yeah, she could have ran.
She could have ran.
Although it did look
away.
like the farmer's close. Another question I just thought of is obviously Edgar Munson. He's in the film. He's actually being guarded in a coma, and his IV gets injected.
Yes.
Where would this be coming from? This chemical or whatever was put in? Because it obviously wakes him up.
There's still.
Is this a link to Dr. Gordon? Because he's still a doctor.
I don't think so. Sadly, I don't think we're ever going to get Gordon again in these films. I don't think Cary Elwes would come back and do it at this point.
If he does Legend.
Yeah. One of the biggest well, I won't say plot hole, it's just like a plot point that isn't answered and might be in a sequel. they try to check if John Kramer is still alive. Like, they know he probably won't be, but they exhume the body, they open the casket, and it's actually someone who's used. It was like an informant at the beginning of the film, and Jigsaw's body isn't in there. And we never actually see where Jigsaw's body is. Someone's clearly taken the body. I don't know what they're doing to the body. They're probably doing unspeakable things to the body, but there's nobody there. That's a question that's been left unanswered. We'll get that in another one, hopefully. Is there anything else that's left unanswered? I talked about the traps that Jigsaw has on the little table thing.
Yeah.
There's another cop in it who just sort of disappears towards the end of the movie.
Yeah, last time we see him is in the detective house when he finds the
Yeah.
jigsaw pieces.
So I don't know if we're going to get more of him. I think that's about it. And then it just sort of the ending to me, the twists in it fall very much in line with Saw 2 and Saw 4. Saw 2 because you've got the whole it's not live thing, and you've got this whole time paradigm shift between the storytelling. And then, like Saw 2 and Saw 4, you have that reveal of someone who you thought was in on the game, like turns out to be an apprentice, essentially. You thought they were part of the game, you thought they were a victim, but they're actually behind it all. Very similar. In fact, the whole ending's like very similar to Saw 4 with Hoffman, in my opinion. So it was a twist, but it wasn't one like some of the other ones in Saw, which have left me like jaw on the ground, like, oh my god. Maybe that was down to the fact that you kind of put that idea into my head that maybe it was a prequel. I don't know if that would have got me when I watched it. It was cool seeing that reveal of Jigsaw, and you could hear a few other people in the audience were like murmuring
Even
and talking about that.
Even with more spoilers, even I didn't know that.
It was actually a fairly decent crowd tonight. We saw it obviously tonight, Friday night.
It's a week after it was released.
Yeah, and I was speaking to the guy at the ticket booth before we went in, and he was saying that I don't know if this is true, but Saw's kind of really kicking Thor Ragnarok's ass at the box office now. Thor, this is what I don't get, because Thor's going to make way more money than this movie ever will. But already, like, looking at the budget for this thing, I think it was done on a budget of 10 million, and it's made 33.2 mil so far. So, I mean, it's when you look at other films that make like 100 million, 200 million, things like that, it's not great, but it's made triple its budget, you know, even with like advertising and everything like that. And this film really didn't have that much advertising. We had one trailer that came out for it. It was all done on the cheap. You had a couple of posters that came out. It's made its budget back. We'll probably get another one. I think Saw 6 made about 60 mil, I think. Or just slightly under. So if it can get over that, I think it'll be fine. But I think at this stage, anyway, we're probably going to guarantee a sequel. Final thoughts on Jigsaw, then we'll wrap up.
Adequate.
Yeah.
Still not the worst. But still, watch the others before. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
You'll understand a lot more. I'd watch it if it was on telly and I had nothing else to watch. No, I wouldn't say that for Saw 3D, but it's good for it. It's all right.
Because the whole like thing with like the directors talking about this film was saying that this is like a reboot, essentially. This is going to bring a whole new audience in. But when you really look at the story and the twist in it and how it links back, I really don't think it is. Unless you've seen the other ones, this might leave you confused in a lot of places. And I don't think it's going to have that same impact unless you've watched the other ones before. I was really concerned with this movie when I saw who was doing the screenplay. So it was two people who did the script, but the main one was Josh Stolberg, who did the script for Piranha 3D. I'm not sure if he did Piranha 3 Double D, either one of those movies. And I was really worried. I know the writing for these films hasn't been great as in some of the installments, but the story's been fairly decent in my opinion, and the twists have been good. But I saw that and I thought, this is going to be worse than Saw 3D. This is really going to be the pits. And it wasn't. It felt like a Saw movie. There are some bits that could have been refined. It's, as you said, it was adequate. It was fine. I had a good time at the theatre. I enjoyed watching it. I enjoyed seeing another Saw movie. I'm glad we got this one. If this is the last one, then I think I'd be okay with that.
I'd be annoyed if more questions wasn't answered, but I would
Yeah.
be all right with it.
Because you do have the whole prequel thing, so you can still say it like ties back into it and it added something new to the mix. But I really hope this does kickstart this rebirth of this franchise essentially, and we can get some more of these because I do like these films. And this didn't put me in a bad mood like Saw 3D did. It was just a fun time at the cinema, and if anything else, that's what you go into a Saw film for.
I would hate for the next one to ruin what we've got. Yeah, to ruin the series. There's little bits in this that I think you kind of ruined a couple of the other films, but I just hope the next one. We want Hoffman, don't we?
I just want him to focus on story. Like, I know there's going to be traps in the next one. There's going to be like a whole new... I don't want it to be, oh, here's another group of characters in another scenario with all these traps. I'd rather have it focus on the story, have that be like 60 to 70% of the film, and then have something with traps in it. Because I know that the traps aren't going anywhere. They're always going to be in these films now. People love that gore. People love all that stuff. In terms of gore, though, this probably wasn't one of the goriest ones. I think the traps, for the most part, were fairly tame. And I think it was done in a way, most of them are anyway, especially when you get to like Saw 5 onwards, but most of the traps are done in a sort of tongue-in-cheek way.
Yeah.
A lot of the performances, especially the one guy who played Ryan, like his reactions to stuff were hilarious. Like it felt like you were watching a B movie.
Yeah, when he calls out and he's all mangled and he just turns around like...
You see it in the trailer where he's like, "Rah!" Like these bulging eyes. It's funny. It is comical. So I don't think that'll be a problem for some people that don't like gore and things like that. I guess that'll do it. I think we've said pretty much everything we can on Jigsaw, so that'll do it for our review. Be sure to comment, subscribe, let us know what you thought of this movie. Did you like it? Didn't you like it? How would you rate it in regards to the other Saw films? What unanswered questions would you like to see answered in the next one?
What holes did you find?
Yeah.
Elaborate on that more for us, because if you agree with ours, let us know what you think. If you find out any more, let us know.
Yeah. But obviously keep spoilers to a minimum in the comment section, because there are going to be people that are going to click in on the video that won't have seen this film yet. So please be respectful of that and don't do what this guy did and spoil the entire movie for me before I went to see it. But yeah, so be sure to comment, subscribe, rate, share, all that good stuff. There's a lot more videos coming to the channel now. There's a whole bunch of movie reviews that we're going to be doing this weekend. We'll have a review for Murder on the Orient Express, Stranger Things Series 2. I'll be watching Happy Death Day at some point as well. I know that came out a few weeks ago, but it's one I do want to get a review out there for. Whole bunch of stuff. So that'll do it from us. Thank you very much, Mark, for jumping on with me today to do this review. And until the next video, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.